All right, the second in our presentations this week, focusing really on understanding the environment. So the first thing we need to do, we said in our 4 main steps to coming up with strategic direction: understand the business, define IT's role in that business and the mission, and then prepare the plan. Bulk of the activity, again, is spent in understanding the business. Because if we're good at what the business does, then we'll understand how the information needs to flow to best support it. So to begin to understand document strategy of the business, you got to understand IT as part of it. It's a necessary element for success. So our efforts need to align. The input that we're taking into this is going to be whatever the business plan vision is. If they don't have a business plan, then this is the area to create it, because the understanding of the information flows and the communication of the different elements of the business will help to shape what the plan should be if they don't have one already. But if you have one, pull it out, dust it off, recast it in terms of the IS, in terms of the information systems, the information flows. So we need to know information about the business itself too. So a lot of times you've got a business that's historically a bunch of mergers and acquisitions. So there's a lot of cultures involved, different systems. There'll be financial summaries, industry summaries, environmental factors. All these things will play into how we need to shape the flow of information for this business. Understand the requirements, both your internal and your external. What are the requirements being put on us from a regulatory standpoint, those kinds of things. And the operating vision. And what we mean by that is, how does the company see itself operating on a day-to-day basis in the future? What does it want to be doing? This gets us to that vision thing, right? Let's take a second here to talk about what we mean by mission statement and vision statement. Mission is why you're here. Well, you're on a mission to do something, right? Why does the business exist? That's what the mission should be. Vision speaks to what the company sees itself becoming. What we will be is blank. Fill that in. Basically, it's how you see yourself accomplishing this mission. And so it's important to have a good vision statement and mission statement, only because you don't want those to get confused. And if you can't articulate that, then there's going to be a lot of confusion downstream as to how the systems need to be set up to support the business operation. Make it credible, make it concise. Then you've got flowing out of there strategies, business objectives, all these kinds of things, critical issues. These are the things that the company's going to be most worried about, right? They can be useful to learn about in discussions with executives and such, because they're the ones that they're going to be most focused on, right? You see where the priorities really are, kind of by how much money the business is spending in different areas and what's being spent to different functions. So you can say a lot of things in a vision statement or a mission, but where is the actual activity for the business going on? Where are they spending the money? So it's good to know these, understand the real business objectives. And it captures items that people are concerned about, don't understand how to or have a means to address when you have discussions with executives about business objectives. Then we need to understand sort of the basic business information. Like I mentioned before, what's the history of the company? Especially if there's been M&A, this can be very important. What markets do we actually compete in, and who are the customers? Do we really just go after a niche set of customers, or are we pretty broad-based? Answers might be different based on the different executives you talk to. Some focus on the current, others might be focused on future business. Global versus local. Do we see ourselves? Are there any businesses that really aren't global anymore, aren't exporting in some way, fashion? Yeah, there are. There's service industry businesses. I bring up example of local electric companies. Hospitals tend to be local businesses. There's some defined by definition or by law and such. But, understand what those ramifications are. And by nature of that, what are the information demands going to be? What are our basic product lines? I mean, what are we really trying to accomplish as a business so that we understand what systems need to support those? Our performance, our statistics in terms of our growth, where are people being located? What's the cost? What's the inventory turnover? Where are those issues that are affecting the business that better information can help with? To do that, then we start doing a process that's called strategic learning. And good strategy is really a process. The market's constantly changing around us, and we need to be adjusting for that. It's a sense and respond kind of environment. We're always looking out to see what's going on with customers, and then changing what we do as a business to maximize our ability to remain competitive and to keep that competitive advantage that we have. Businesses most often fail because the assumptions on which that they were built no longer apply. All right, so they may have been built on some assumptions early on, been very successful. The ground changes underneath them, they no longer apply. We've always got to be going out there and removing those assumptions and base our decisions on data and what we're seeing in the environment. Bad strategic choices are going to trump good execution every single time. So the fundamentals of strategy recognize that there is an inescapable reality, which is that there are limited resources and there's going to be inevitable competition. You combine those, there's a need for strategy to maneuver through those. If we didn't have those, we wouldn't need strategy. We just go do stuff and make money. But winning at business now means winning at that value competition. What are we delivering for our customers that's better than our competitors are going to be able to do? That means we need to concentrate mass on some key decision points that are going to add value. Information technology is one of those. Our competitive advantage is going to be based on creating a bigger gap between cost and value than our competitors can create. How does this relate to us, from an IT perspective? Once you lose that value proposition, it's very difficult to claw it back. You start getting into this cost fight, right? We're not as good at value as the competitor, so now we got to be less expensive. That gets very tough because then that cost automatically goes back to systems. Systems get cut, and all of a sudden you're losing your ability to really make those big advances that can get you out in front of the competition. You're always going to be chasing from behind. And it's not always about asking the customers either. So bring up that example of Henry Ford. Henry Ford famously said if he asked his customers what they wanted, they said they want a faster horse. We've got to be smart about this and be innovative. So we need to understand the industry, the external environment, and our internal environment. Natural selection is going to be key to winning. So think about it in terms of natural selection. There's variation that's involved. For us, that's going to be creative thinking, challenging our assumptions, experimenting with small things in order to see what works and what can create new insights. There's going to be selection involved. Where do we want to compete? How do we want to win? What are priorities for success? Pick the ones that work, get rid of the ones that don't. And then retention. Got to create alignment in our organization so that we can continue to sort of build on those lessons that we've learned. From that, we need to understand our industry itself. So when I say that, what do I mean? I mean, understand what is our share of the industry that we are in? What are the trends in that industry? Are we keeping up with those or not? Are we a commodity industry? That'll drive us to some different technology decisions than if we're really in a value shaping industry. And what potential changes could differentiate us? What's our competitive advantage? And what are our customers really asking us for? All of these are signals for what direction we need to take. Then there's the other external environment thing. Who are our stakeholders? Are there trends in their expectations of us? What are their hierarchies of needs that we need to make sure we're meeting the top ones before we can even talk to them about the other ones? How well do we meet those needs for them? What are the marketplace threats that are out there? What are our own strengths and weaknesses? These are things that, again, you want to ask these questions and formulate them into your understanding and your strategic documentation so that you understand where we need to put the technology investment and where we need to make those changes to improve our ability, to improve the company's ability, basically to compete in this environment. This is all going to be based on one-on-one interviews, group interviews, all those kinds of things. People tend to underestimate a lot of problems and then smooth real problems. But you should get a good feel from an objective standpoint of what's really going on out there. Then your internal environment. What are we really doing well? Again, be very objective about it. What information systems are working well? What is delivering for our internal customers? And what isn't? What do we need to work on? And what are we doing from an internal perspective that can be improved on? So you can get external surveys from a customer perspective for some of this stuff, but a lot of that's going to be internal. Just understanding what our business thinks of us. Summarize all of that. Once you've gone through and gotten answers to all that question, you create a summary of business drivers that you've been able to gather. This is going to dig into issues and opportunities. Report that back to the executives as confirmation. This is sometimes an interesting conversation because a lot of folks aren't really paying attention to the overall business. They're focused on their particular department or their particular function. But we got to get this back to get confirmation and understand external environmental requirements. Once you understand and can show that you have a grasp of the business at its highest levels, not only do you know kind of where you need to make those impact adjustments, but you'll also gain credibility within the business. And the leadership that you're going to require to sponsor your activities going forward will understand that you understand what's going on with that business.